Peter, thank you for taking the time and trouble to have a conversation with me today.
Pleasure.
For those of you who don't know you, if they
Don't be ridiculous.
for those who've been living under a rock for the past 20 years, maybe longer,
maybe a bit longer than that.
would you mind just giving us a quick sort of, introduction to your career in estate agency so far?
3 years at a company called Lane Fox,
Yep.
very posh. I was the only guy that hadn't been to Eton.
Right.
Then I left to go to Foxtons, which
Yep.
was the antithesis of that. It was 9 till 9, 7 days a week. This
Yep.
was in the very early days of Foxtons, 1985. I was the 20th employee, and we opened the Fulham office at 0% then,
Yep.
which was a big splash in the water. And then I spent 20 years at Foxtons, and
Yep.
then bought a company called Marsh Parsons, which we built. It was a brilliant business, but very underperforming, very traditional, very blue-blooded.
Yep.
And as a result, was pretty ineffective, but nice. And then I injected it with the good bits from Foxtons and left out some of the bad bits. And then we built it and sold it in 2011 to LSL. I then had 4 years of building it again under the LSL umbrella. And in 2016, I had the opportunity to walk away, which I did.
Great.
So I got my timing
Yeah.
very luckily right. I was very fortunate. I think life in general is a mixture of hard work and luck, and I've had plenty of both.
Okay. One of the bits which I'm really interested to talk about is your return to Foxtons. So you went back in 2022 as interim CEO. What was that experience like of having stepped away from sort of frontline estate agency to then come back into it?
It was fascinating. I didn't actually go back as interim.
Okay.
I went back as a non-exec.
Gotcha.
I was asked to sit back on the board
Yeah.
by a group of activist investors who saw, frankly, what a shit show it was.
Yeah.
It had been, in my view, extremely badly run for a number of years,
Yeah.
and had lost its mojo, lost its sense of purpose.
Yeah.
I saw pretty immediately what the problem was, which is a lack of focus. They had tried to be all things to all people, and you just can't do that. And they were trying to be, this is going to sound bad, but they were trying to be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
And an agent's job is not to be nice to everyone, frankly. We act for our client, and
Yeah.
cut a long story short, we pretty much got rid of the whole management team, chief people officer, whatever that means, CEO,
Yeah.
COO, CMO,
Right.
and really had a proper clear out. And I've known Guy Gittins, who is the current
Yeah.
CEO, and a brilliant leader for a long, long time, because I employed him at Foxtons 20 years ago.
Right.
And he at the time was running Chesterton's, and I sort of approached him and said, come back. And he did, but he had a 3-month non-compete.
So that's where the interim.
That's
where the interim piece.
So
came from.
Nigel
Okay,
Rich,
great.
who's the chairman of Foxtons,
Yeah.
said to me, Peter, would you consider coming back as for a while? And I said,
Yeah.
I'd rather poke my eyes out with a stick. But actually, I thought about it, and I thought, well, 3 months there's an end game
Yeah.
here, and I absolutely loved it.
So one of the things you mentioned that when you went from Foxtons to Marsh and Parsons is that you took the good bits from Foxtons and you left behind some of the bad bits. What specifically would you say at that moment in time were the good bits and the bad bits?
I thought Foxtons had become too impersonal, too unempathetic. It was
Yeah.
almost the antithesis of what I came back to find.
Sure.
It was too aggressive.
Yeah.
We were unforgiving, totally unforgiving of people who weren't cutting it.
Yeah.
Arguably, I was unhappy for the previous 2 years
Sure.
before I actually left and bought M&P. So I brought all the sort of positives a bit about it, and the energy. It's all about energy. Our business. They were, M&P were closing at 5:30.
Right.
In fact, lettings closed at 5:30 and sales closed at 6. I'll give you one classic example, which is, again, if anyone who's worked in sales, this is the antithesis of how you should run a sales business. They were very worried, because they're a PLC, about the minimum wage.
Yeah.
They increased the basic from something like 18 to 21.
Sure.
And they cut the commission from 10% to 3%
Wow.
for the negs. So guess what quality of people they employed? It was catastrophic.
Yeah.
They were full of people that shouldn't be there. They were being employed just sort of bums on seats, and without any vigour and focus on whether they were great salespeople or not even great salespeople, where they had some get up and go and some desire to succeed.
Yes.
And I'm told all the time that this generation don't have a desire to succeed. That's bullshit. Some do, many don't. Maybe they've been indulged and become entitled because of the way they've been brought up, but lots aren't, and they really do want to succeed. and you have to go and find them, which is probably a bit harder these days.
Absolutely. So when you're sort of like thinking about the future for a business like Foxtons, still London's leading agent,
Yep.
what do you see as like the most important qualities or principles of that business which it must continue to do in order to be successful into the future?
Well, it's the same old, same old. It's all about the people.
Yeah.
And if you get the right people in and motivate them and manage them, because you have to manage them, you can't just say, go away and try and do some sales or some lettings.
Yeah.
Then you have to manage them. So get the right people in first. And so you have to really focus on the right people. And it's not just a question of bums on seats. It's a question of the management team really finding the best people. So you have to see a lot of people. You have to kiss a lot of frogs.
Yeah.
You really do, to identify the right people with the right attitude.
Yeah.
And it's not about what they've done. It's about who they are.
Okay.
And it's attitude. Attitude is everything.
Could you maybe talk us through what your approach to finding talent was? You've talked about attitude, but how did you go about kissing those frogs?
I think it depends what sort of company you're in. At Foxtons, we employed young people, mainly university or even school leavers, frankly. And I used to see probably 60 to 70 people a week in groups.
Yeah.
So like a drinks party, I gave them a beer and a wine. They wondered if that was a test. It wasn't. And I used to work the room like a drinks party.
Yeah.
And I think I'm pretty good at that. So I can get focus on someone, chat to them, and within 2 or 3 minutes, I reckon, I can see if there's something there.
Yeah.
If they're just if there's not, then I can pretty much tell, and I'm quite good at just moving on. Thank you very much. What have you got to say for yourself?
Yes.
That sort of stuff. And then they'd go out and meet for 10 to 15 minutes with a director, and then we make a decision that night.
So I guess Foxtons had the big advantage in that context of being geographically focused, just on London, and in addition to that, probably requiring quite a lot of new talent to come in at the bottom or top of the funnel.
Yep.
So for a smaller business, what advice would you give them about how they could take some of those lessons or principles of how you selected talent, entry-level talent, at Foxtons and apply that to their own businesses?
Well, I think it's certainly not the same. I didn't do it at Marsh Parsons. I didn't have great rooms full of people. I tried it a couple of times, but frankly, we didn't need that many people because we weren't as brutal about getting rid of people as I was at Foxtons. So in finding people, it's obviously tough, but at the lower end, it is about advertising, obviously, that you're looking for people and seeing as many people as you can.
Sure.
And don't let someone else do it.
Yeah.
You've got to do it. The boss has got to either be in the room or on the call and really understand what he or she is looking for, because you won't need that many.
No.
You just don't. But you need to really focus on it. I think it's the biggest thing I did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take another left turn. Let's speak about fees. Mm-hmm. One of the things that, and I've sat in Property Academy groups with you, is that you challenge people hard. And I think it'd be fair to say that your view is that the estate agency industry as a whole do not charge enough for their service. Is that a fair statement?
Sure, definitely. They're worth much more. And
so why do you think it is that fees have been in decline within the industry over the past 10 years? And probably longer.
Yeah, I think the big bomb that went off with the industry, and we let it go off, was purple bricks, and we just chased the market down. And instead of sort of saying, no, we're much better than they are, they may be charging nothing or 0.5%, but we are much better. It depends what you want. When I bought Marsh & Parsons, I did it with a company called Sherry Fitzgerald in Ireland. They were my backers, if you like. Yeah. And I went to Ireland. And Sherry Fitzgerald were 120 offices across Ireland.
Okay.
A fabulous brand, a brilliant brand full of wonderful people. And they were at 0.75% fee, which was the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
And when I challenged them on it, they said, well, everyone else is the same. I said, yeah, but you're not. Anyway, within a very short period of time, their fee was at 1.25%.
Fantastic.
So it had gone up a lot. And it is genuinely about bravery. And it is about not allowing your people to go soft on fees.
Yeah.
And so if you give a salesperson the option to say, look, I've got this great house and I'm going to sell it tomorrow, but they want to do it for 1%, they'll do it for 1%.
Yeah.
They will. And you could argue that because it's going to sell very quickly, they're right. But it is a slippery slope that you tread down that path. So you have to say to them, no, your minimum fee is 1.25, 1.5, whatever it may be. You are not allowed to go lower than that. It empowers them to be tough.
Totally.
And that's the way to do it, in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah, flexibility I think is really, really challenging for people to be able to use sensibly at scale.
Yeah.
So especially if you're operating multi-site, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 offices, having a really clear policy is
Yeah.
sort of step number one. So if you're an agent where, let's imagine you're charging 1% today, and you know that in order to make good profits, you need to be at 1.25, how would you do it?
I'm afraid you've got to jump off the cliff.
Just do it.
Yeah.
It's literally as simple as that. It's literally,
it really is. Just do it.
So no more, no special
No more
tactics. It's
prevaricating.
literally just go for it.
No, exactly. And the few people, and sadly it is a few who've tried it, have contacted me later and said, "Oh my God, 90% of people have said yes."
Yeah.
And you will lose those few people, but frankly, they were probably the cautious savers who are a pain in the arse to have as clients anyway.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want them.
Absolutely.
But it'll. I bang on about it all the time. It'll make a massive difference to your business.
Totally.
If you just bite that bullet and jump off the cliff and it.
I think one of the things that people don't understand generally is that if you sit down with an estate agent and say, right, what's your objective for the next year? Almost universally, they want to grow their market share. They want to list more houses.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But in order to do that, you need more people.
Yep.
You might need more premises.
Yep.
You're going to need to invest.
Yep.
From the time you start investing, you won't see a return for 9 months, whereas your fees...
Yeah, instant.
With
Absolutely
no
instant.
more people. And for an agent who's making a 20% profit margin, if you go from 1% to 1.25, you double your profits.
There you go. I mean, the numbers add up beautifully.
Yeah.
And you might lose a bit of market share.
Sure.
But market share of stock on the market, I think, is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's market share of sold stock, and
Yeah.
you'll probably sell a few less, but you'll make more money. It's a win-win. And actually, because you're making more money, you're paying your staff a bit better, maybe if they're on commission.
Absolutely. Yeah, why not?
And it is a virtuous circle of better people and better results.
So just taking a little bit of left turn then. So we've got Foxtons who are charging a really great percentage fee in the marketplace, 2.25%.
Yep.
And it would probably be fair to say that the Foxtons business of today has got a slightly lower average capital value than across the whole of the capital.
Yeah.
Do you think those two things are linked? Like, what's your take on? Is it that Foxtons specialises in first-time sellers? What do you think it is?
I mean, it's common knowledge the average Foxton sale price, staggeringly, is about £575,000 in London.
Yeah.
And I think that because of what happened in the previous 7 years to me going back to Foxtons, and it wasn't me going back, but the previous 7 years was they'd lost sight of what the business was all about.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it justice. And if you lose that ability to prove to the top end of the market that you can sell top end stock, it sort of dissipates. Having said that, we're the biggest agent in London and we have got a lot of stock.
Absolutely.
And arguably quite a lot, over 1.5 to 3 million quid. Certainly hundreds.
Yeah.
So we do it, but we're sort of camouflaged, if you like, by the volume we have.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of volume, which is great.
Yeah.
As I often say, if you sell a £500,000 flat at 2.5%, it's the same as selling a £1-something million house at 1%.
Absolutely.
So, we get the same money, but
Totally.
we don't have the panache, if you like, of the upper end of the market, which we'd like to get more of, but not at the cost of the volume. The volume is where the money is.
Absolutely. So some of my best Property Academy friends, I'm meeting with two of them tonight. So Richard James, who's got a fantastic business over in Swindon. Mark Brooks, who's got a brilliant business, and I know that you know Mark incredibly well.
Yeah.
Both of them speak about the Marsh Parsons advertising campaign on the Tube as being the best estate agency marketing campaign they've ever seen. And
they're right, obviously.
Naturally. So for those people who aren't familiar with it, could you just describe what it was and why you think, your peers within the industry still look to that one campaign as being something really special?
Yeah. Well, it took a long time to do it. We searched and I had all sorts of presentations from all sorts of people, and they were just humdrum, same old. Our whole purpose at Focus at M&P was to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
I even had a little sign on everyone's desk with a little bush with a standing up, stand out from the crowd.
Nice.
We wanted to do things differently because it's a very noisy market.
Yeah.
There's shitloads of competition, and unless you stand out from the crowd, find something different.
Yeah.
Like our corporate colour was chocolate brown.
Yeah.
You know, it was different. Everyone else red, green, and blue.
Yeah.
That's what they are,
Yeah.
or they were at the time. So the marketing campaign was all about it can't be copied. No one would copy this. Will can copy this because it's ours.
Yes.
We sort of own it.
Yeah.
And so our first strapline was local know-how. I added better results.
Yes.
And then everybody started saying we're your local estate agent, and you know local knowledge makes the difference, and you know all this sort of stuff. Which you know, I suppose it's the greatest compliment is whatever that expression is.
Imitation.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, sincerest form of flattery. So we decided to try and go for a really personal campaign, or really individual campaign just for us. So we came up with all sorts of ideas, and the one it was a friend of mine who just sold his marketing business. He said, "Yep, I'll help," and it was remarkably inexpensive to begin with, which is music to my ears.
I loved it to begin with.
Yeah, well, there you go. You know, they reeled me in, and then.
That's it.
But actually, it was never that expensive.
Yeah.
He was just a genius, and he did it sort of in his spare time,
Amazing.
which was lovely. But it's it was getting out and speaking to people and finding him.
Totally.
But it was all about people. It was all about being smart. It was all about I wanted someone to look at our advertising and say, "That's nice,"
Absolutely.
or "Ha." That's great. That's smart. That's clever.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It was nothing about, aren't we clever? We get lots of money for you for your houses.
Totally.
It wasn't designed to do that. It was a branding campaign to make you feel good about the brand, and therefore, when we follow it up with different marketing campaigns, like we did very punchy marketing campaigns of big letters saying we will get you the best price.
Yeah.
That it knitted together to form a charming, interesting company that are going to go out and in John Hunt's words, go to war for you. One of the big ones we had lots of big bus campaign, which in London is useful, and we had the only way is ethics, which just made me smile, and I thought, smart, great, fun.
Lettings is such a big part of the business, not only in London but nationally, and a lot of the data that I've seen is showing a shrinking private residential lettings market, where landlords, under frankly counterproductive policies from the government, are driving landlords out of the market, which obviously is actually hurting the people that they're purporting to try and protect, i.e. tenants, by driving up rents. But it's causing a problem for agents, which is that there's less available stock for them to try and win.
Yep.
What advice would you give a lettings agent looking to maintain or grow their portfolio size in this market where it's actually shrinking?
It's a really tough one.
Sure.
I mean, we all know how tough it is to get letting stock. London, so yes, it comes back. I do think the Renters Reform Act now will help us in a funny sort of way.
How so?
Because the biggest letting agent in the country is Open Rent.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can be as on the ball with the various things, new policies that landlords have to carry out. It is a bit of a minefield, and I genuinely think, and we've seen it already, that more landlords will come to us wanting to let their property or take over the letting of their property because they think, oh my God, this is so complicated. And when we saw what the issues Rachel Reeves got into with her
100%.
HMO, I mean, far be it from me to feel sorry for her, but I feel sorry for her.
Yeah.
I do, because it's an absolute minefield of stuff that you've got to do, and you can fall into some big traps. So that's one thing. Actually, at Foxtons, our letting stock has gone up. We're already the largest letting agent in London in terms of stock.
Yeah.
It has increased this year. So whilst you're right, the general feeling is that private landlords are exiting the market. We have, I think, about 6.5%, 7% of the London market. So we don't have 93% of the market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of business to be got for us.
100%.
We think.
So you make a really interesting point about Open Rent. They've now got anything from 12 to 16 and maybe even more of the rentals market, and 10 years ago that just didn't exist. So our lettings agent colleagues now have got all of these external factors, all of this additional pressure, and I was lucky enough for you to arrange for me last year to go and visit Guy and the team in Chiswick.
At Foxtons.
Yeah, Foxtons, absolutely brilliant. And the thing which really impressed me was the proactive sales operation for lettings,
Sure.
which I think a lot of estate agents out there will recognise a version of that. But I wonder how many lettings-focused businesses have got an operation as sophisticated as that.
None. I really don't think any. I mean, I think it is an absolute class above.
Yeah.
And don't forget, it's been going a long time. We set it up 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So the data we have there, I mean, enormous amounts of data to work on. And I think we might be talking about it in a minute, but you know, the introduction of AI into that data set is going to change the world in my view. So, you know, what Foxtons have already is a lead. And I think that lead is, under Guy's leadership, is now being utilised as it should have been.
Totally. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about AI and maybe some of the things that you're involved in now. What are you doing to keep yourself busy now that you're no longer working 6 days a week from 6 in the morning till 9 p.m. at night?
Well, I'm doing quite a lot. I mean, I'm actually doing quite a lot,
okay.
But nothing like I did before. So in comparison, it feels like I'm sort of semi-retired.
Yeah.
And I suppose I am semi-retired, but you know, I'm not driving up to London every morning at 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. Anyway, so I've got much more time on my hands, and I can think a lot more, which is nice, as opposed to being completely full-on blinkered, go the whole time, which I was. That's how you run a business. My latest success was something called Fixer. Which has
most people have heard of.
Absolutely taken off, and I'm very lucky. I helped them as a couple of brothers that founded it, and they approached me and said, please introduce us to some businesses, and I did, and they signed up the businesses. So I was able to buy some equity, which was nice. Buy equity, which is great, and I'm very, very excited about that, because I think it will, and has for many businesses, given their people much more time to get on with stuff.
Totally.
And that really leads me on to my next investment, which I've just invested in last week actually, which is a business called Nesty, which is focused on answering the telephone, for want of a better word. Agents, in my view, are not very good at getting information out of potential buyers, tenants, whatever. And obviously when they're out of the office and there's no one there, it either goes to an answering service or to a recorded message, which is disastrous. So Nesty uses AI to answer the phone and asks all the right questions, and asks if they've got somewhere to sell, ask if they've got a mortgage organised beautifully, and then it transcribes everything and sends it to your inbox, or it adds it to your CRM.
Amazing.
So I think it'll change agency and maybe general people businesses in a massive way, and will make them much more efficient. And I'm pretty excited about it.
How ready do you think consumers are to have their query dealt with by AI? Because I can hear a whole load of estate agents currently going, that's great, Peter, but come on, we offer a personal service, and how is that congruent with that value?
It's such a good question, and I am going to challenge you on what they are going to say, because they are going to say it. You're right, but I actually, when I got my first bit of, I got a link for Nesty, and I looked at it. I thought, oh, it's a bit weird, but actually, someone pointed out to me it's probably better than 80% of agents anyway, in getting all the information. And since then, and that was about 7 months ago, the latency, the bit that the gap between the question and response is down to virtually human. And so it doesn't feel weird. It did feel weird. It doesn't feel weird anymore. It actually feels like a rather nice conversation. And as it listens to you, your agents, because it does, it learns your style. It learns the way you say things.
Nice.
You can choose any voice. You can choose any language. So, for instance, someone could be struggling to speak English, and the AI can ask what nationality you are. I'm Italian. It can switch straight into Italian and then convert the response into English and send it to the agent. I mean, it's very exciting, I think, and it'll save agents money, because they will be able to have less people, and it'll make them super efficient.
So one of the things which I sort of wonder about is, as we automate and use AI to enhance that, the top of funnel processes. So you look at what Mark Brooks has been able to do in Finamply. with AI text messages,
Yep.
converting inbound mortgage leads into booked mortgage appointments. You look at what you've just described in terms of inbound telephony.
Yep.
You look at what I've built with Alex and the rest of the Greenhouse team with an AI prospecting agent who's like prospecting the database using text. Then we're going to end up with less people in the offices at entry level.
Yep.
Two problems that I see. One, how do we then bring in people who can do the more mundane jobs to cut their teeth on those
To learn.
to learn, to be around other people, learning those basic skills, because that layer is going to be the layer which is predominantly affected. So that's one area. And then secondly, in a branch structure like, I don't want to pick on Foxtons, but like Foxtons, where you've got and in fact, I'll pick somewhere else. So in a northern agent, which doesn't have the average pound note fee of Foxtons,
Yep.
you're then in a position where you don't need as many people. So now actually staffing the office and keeping it open almost becomes an overhead in itself. What do you see the future as?
Well, it does become an overhead, but I think it's an essential overhead because it'll get the instructions. If you don't have an office, in my view, you won't get the instructions.
How do you explain EXP then? Like one of the fastest growing agencies.
Really
in
good
office.
point. It's
Or
fastest
Purple
growing. Yeah,
Bricks,
really good point. And I sincerely believe in the broker model.
Yeah.
I really do. But I much prefer the broker model with Preston Baker, with Douglas
Sure.
and Gordon, who have a brand to work behind.
Yeah.
I am delighted by the success of EXP. It
Yeah.
has confounded what I thought could work because it doesn't even have a brand in my
No,
view.
it doesn't.
It doesn't. But what it has got, and I just wonder, and I don't know this at all, I wonder how many of their 800 people are making great money.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a put a pin in that one, because I suspect there is a top 20%
Of course.
who are doing incredibly well.
But that's probably the same in any agency,
Well,
really,
indeed,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Although if you've got a basic salary, that's a great leveler.
Yeah.
I can see downward pressure on entry-level headcounts,
Yeah.
which means that then the number of branches which people will have will make less sense. So you'll move to bigger hubs. So maybe where you've got 2 or 3 offices, they'll maybe move into one, bigger centres where you can create culture. Because the other thing, and we found this post-COVID when we were just getting people back to work, you sometimes had 2 people sat in an office.
That's tough.
And like from a culture point of view and a vibe, and we talked about Chiswick and what an amazing environment that is with the leaderboards and the
incredible.
buzz. You need that. And
You
actually,
do.
if we have less people, is there not a logical extension where we end up, effectively with bigger hubs but fewer of them?
Yeah, there is.
I don't know.
And that might be a sort of a sort of hybrid broker model.
Yeah.
Because I think Preston Baker's is a sort of
right.
hybrid broker
Correct,
model,
yeah.
which I think is probably the way forward.
Yeah.
In that you've got a hub, but then you have people
That's it.
outside. But I'm a big believer, obviously, about coming into the office.
Yes.
And I think if you allow young people, and by young I mean inexperienced, to work from home, it's a catastrophe for you
is.
and them. And
100%.
you've got to say no.
That's it.
Because they have to learn and they have to get that. But it will evolve. Agency has always evolved.
Yeah.
In 1987 or 8, I was running South Kensington Foxtons.
Yeah.
I had 25 sales negs, 17, 18 lettings negs.
Wow.
It was an absolute monster. But we had shed loads of stock.
Yeah.
It was a totally different market.
Totally.
And now in the same office, same, they've probably got 20 in total.
Which is
Sales and
still
lettings.
big.
Still big.
Still
It's
big.
still big.
Especially given that all the phone calls are answered in Chiswick. Is that
Yeah.
still the case?
Yeah.
They're all answered in
Yeah.
Chiswick?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, listen, I've taken up a lot of your time. I'm incredibly
Pleasure.
grateful for you sitting down and having this conversation with me. There's going to be so much actionable stuff for people to put into practice. And thank you for
was
taking
fun.
the time to speak to me.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.